I'm Emily Elizabeth Windsor Craig from the House of Windsor, or what you know as the royal family. Well, my father was king. He was Edward VIII, who fell in love and married Wallis Simpson. However, my grandfather, King George V, documented meeting Wallis Simpson as an MI5 agent from 1917 until the end of World War I, long before my father met her. I believe she acted as a honey trap to force him to abdicate, as he was the only one of the children of George V who was not an occultist or a Satanist. This abdication exiled my father from Britain and lost his inheritance and that of his children, wherever they might be. Yet here we are today, and it appears to be acceptable for Prince Charles to be violating the 1772 Marriage Act that forced my father to abdicate with Camilla. In other words, marry a divorcee. It was a honey trap, or as we know, a setup, and in this way it exonerates my father, restoring him to the line of heirs, and thus myself now. As my father was not an occultist, he was a realist, he was a liberal, he was pro-labor, he was popular with the people, and he would have been the most suitable man for keeping Britain out of wars, because he himself spent 3.5 years on the ground in the Grenadier Troop Guards during World War I himself, and he survived it. However, his successor, Elizabeth II, owns 85% of the uranium armaments business, and she profits from war. I don't think this is what the people of the United Kingdom have consented to. I wouldn't. You see, an occultist cannot honor the vows they take as a Christian queen or king, because those vows conflict with their sworn oaths to the chivalric and Masonic organizations to follow Lucifer. I am not an occultist. I belong to the Church of England. And our current legal system is based on maritime laws of the Admiralty, corporate and civil codes, which the current Queen endorses, even though most of those laws violate our human and civil rights. She took an oath to uphold those civil rights, and it's a high treason charge against British sovereignty to compromise English common law, in which the citizens are sovereign. The system of admiralty has been allowed to supersede common law for against rape, murder, theft, and so forth, with a jury to set the ruling and sentence. So most admiralty law has no victims. It has to do with breaking rules written on paper, and it requires you to consent to be governed by these rules. But most people don't understand the difference between maritime laws and common law. Common law always has a real victim. Maritime law is a matter of exchanging money or violating a rule. Our current queen is firmly under the control of the bankers of the City of London. Now, the City of London is a country in its own right. It is not accountable to Parliament. It has its own laws and police and so forth. and it has stood firmly by while allowing wars to be started, resulting in millions of deaths, just so these bankers can get rich while making the people who work poor. You think taxes, paying the public borrowing and spending bill for wars, help anybody? There is only one outcome if nothing changes. The elites will own everything, including you and me, and in the process, they'll mess up most of the world, literally, with pollution and corruption. I believe that I am the rightful Queen of England, and that I ask, and I don't command. A queen does not rule, but reign. After all the people are not slaves, that I ask for every man and woman of the UK to march together in London. The only way we can change the situation is if 20 million people jam London up. We must completely overwhelm the police so they don't try to pick a fight. And only if they are vastly outnumbered will they accept the fact that governance has to be for the people and by the people, and not merely for and by the advantaged and rich classes. Our showing up in this way would make a clean coup, and hopefully casualties would be kept to a minimum. This one day can then see the current corrupt government outed and exposed, the treasonous queen outed, because her treason was against the citizens of these lands for violating her coronation vows. And a reigning queen who actually works on the ground and who has worked my whole life long, and who has morals and ethics to serve and protect the nation itself, can begin and start over. Let's start over. I serve no banker, and I serve justice that the innocent and the hardworking should receive a good outcome, and that the disruptive and the hostile should be cut away from the central streams of advantage in a society. If we really want to shape our future in a big way, one day of action, and then we can crack on with undoing this wrongful mess. It has been put in place by the Luciferian Masons and Illuminati, and it's time to move it out of the way. We need to get back to our lives knowing that there is a future that looks better than the present. For any man or woman who participates upon a rightful restoration, they ought to receive resources to live on as a full owner of their life. And yes, I accept Article 61 of the 1215 Magna Carta Oath declarations as a form of signing up. For as you weigh it up, ask yourselves this: has maritime admiralty law been a good deal so far for your family? Where do you see it going? The TTP/IP, privatization, the selling of national assets like the train system and the health system at below market value, so it can be rented back to the people at every increasing cost, while maintenance, safety, and quality of service are cut out, so as only the small group of shareholders. So who on earth thought privatization was a good idea? Doesn't sound like it is going to work out. It hasn't worked out in the past. It's not going to work out in the future. If you choose to do nothing, then you have no right to complain or whine that you don't like this or you don't like that. We have to do something. We cannot simply allow the rich to get richer and richer and richer and the poor to suffer and suffer and suffer. That is not the culture to which we were born and to which we are called. Sometimes we have to take a risk to get a gain, or in this case, a better life. And sometimes we have to put ourselves on the line. Are you willing to do it? I hope so. Let's start over. Thank you. This has been Emily Windsor. Pray.